friends. Welcome to another episode of the 10 Laws Podcast with East Forest. I'm Mr. East, as sometimes they're called. They say, what should I call you? Should I call you East? Should I call you Mr. Forest? Should I call you Krishna? And I say, I get them all from time to time, so whatever makes you feel comfortable. But regardless, this week, I wanted to give you a behind-the-scenes look into this song, The Light of Truth, give you both the rich history on how it came to be in concept, but also, the story of what that creation was like, and a little bit of the music to give you, sort of that angle of how the actual track manifested and what's going on there musically. This all started when Justin Beretta, he formed a music label called Formless, and his project Superposition, along with his partner Matt, they make this wonderful music, and they've been taking teachings from various teachers like Ram Dass and others, and Alan Watts, and they put it to music as a way of transmitting these teachers. And so it's it's definitely some crossover with my own work. And they've been working on sort of a compilation album with lots of different musicians and teachers, and they asked me if I wanted to be involved. And I'm like, sure. And they said, so it's up to you who you want to feature or work with. And I initially was just thinking, like, it'd be great to work with someone of color or work with a woman or both, or anyone BIPOC, or just people that are maybe not as represented typically or underrepresented in that way. So my mind started thinking about it, and I thought of Mooji. And Mooji's someone that I did not know personally at the time, someone I knew of as a Jamaican teacher who's based in the UK and Portugal. And I had seen some of his talks, frankly, on YouTube, I believe is where I'd come across his work. And then Radha, she was out in 2019. She was in India, in Rishikesh, for the first time. And she had gone to like a talk of his or an event of his that was in Rishikesh. And she told me, like, there were like posters for him all over town. And she went, and there were just thousands of people at this event. And she really found him to be a very grounded and moving teacher. And so then it was even more on my radar at that point. So anyway, I thought maybe Mooji would be great for this. I know he would be great, but how do we go about this? So I honestly just went to his website and went to the contact form and wrote them a little note saying, hey, here's who I am, and I had this opportunity to make this song, and I think it could be kind of neat. Is this something maybe we could talk more about? And I didn't have another way to reach out to them. I didn't have a point of contact. So I was honestly thinking, man, I don't even know if they're going to see this, or I don't know what kind of messages they have to cull through. But some time did pass, and eventually I did get a message back. And they're like, yeah, we would like to talk about this, maybe. So I got on a video call with his team and presented it further. And then, of course, I always drop the little bomb where I'm like, but I would like to talk to him, not just go into the archives of recordings. I'd like to actually have a conversation with him so that I'm sort of given material in a way. It's formed together, and it's not so much my decision. It's like, here's the material we have to work with. So they went off and presented the idea to Mooji himself, and I guess he thought about it, and then eventually they said yes. So I was real excited about this, and we set up the date and time to do the video conference. We actually did a sound check first one day, which I thought was cool. And I really appreciate about his team that they're very dedicated to high quality, like, microphones and connection and this sort of thing. So the day came where we were going to talk, and I'm all ready, got my stuff dialed on my side as best I can. And he pops up on the screen, and they set it up really well, like, so that he's looking like right at the camera. Some people, when you're on Zooms and stuff, they look, and it's a little off. But this one, it looked like he's looking right at me. And they had a really slick little high definition mic kind of attached to his face, one of those small ones. And he's just sitting there. No, like, okay, here he comes, or or okay, no in between banter with somebody else. It just popped up, and there's Mooji staring at me and smiling, which I thought was very sweet. And if you watch the full conversation, which is on YouTube, from that became a podcast. I released the whole conversation as part of the podcast, as you know, I hope. And that's where we started. And I kind of wanted to approach it a bit like the Ram Dass material, and then I was like, well, I have some loose questions, but I really want to be open to where this wants to go. And I'm mindful that, we're trying to make some kind of offering or song from this. So I'm always kind of just listening to what he's saying and thinking like what might work for that. And at one point in the conversation, I was sort of asking about doing something embodied, like a meditation. And then he was totally amenable to that. And he dove into this very deep and patient meditation that maybe you've heard, that about the oneness of being. And I thought to myself, well, this seems like a natural fit for the song because he sort of chose it. We're doing it. It's embodied, sort of like the I Am Loving Awareness song from Ram Dass. So this seems good. And we finished the conversation, and that's what I did. I basically took that meditation more or less in real time, and I thought, I want to try to put music to this. So as you maybe know, that's not what ended up being, but just to let you know how this whole process happened. And so I started digging around for music, and I tried a few different things, but I had this one piece of music that I just had labeled Tobacco. And the reason is it was Christmas Day, and Rod and I did not have the kids, so it's like we thought, well, let's just, the whole world turns off, so let's engage in ceremony ourselves. And it was the end of the day, and I was working with tobacco in the ceremony, which is the only time I work with tobacco. And I was feeling this calling to go play music. And so we came out into the studio, and I set up, hit record on the microphones at the piano, the grand piano, and my little looping setup. And I recorded an improvisation. And it was a really beautiful improvisation. I think it was kind of long. It might have been around 12 minutes or more. And I just labeled it Tobacco because I felt like it was the tobacco energy speaking through me. And so I used that music initially, and I put that music down, and it goes, just the music, here's a bit of it to give you a sense of what it sounded like. To me, it has an ethereal energy, but there was something different about it that I found unique. And to me, it was the tobacco spirit. And to be frank, I felt somewhat intentional, cautious. I'm not sure what the right word is. Like, should I use this music for anything, or what? How would this be? It's ceremony, but this felt like, if anything, like a good opportunity. So I went for it. And I put it all together. And we were actually down in Mexico at the time when I was working on the final mix, or an initial rough draft mix of this, for an event. And I sent it off. I sent it off to the Mooji team. And they sat with it, and they actually came back, and they did not think it was a good fit. And so I got back on a Zoom call with his team, and they explained to me that the meditation that he essentially was giving, which is one of his sort of signature ideas and pieces, this meditation, which you hear in the podcast, it typically brings you into this place of oneness and stillness, centeredness. And they see that as a place of emptiness and nothingness. And in a lot of ways, like almost like the music took away from that. So in their mind, instead of amplifying the experience, it distracted from it. And I would imagine they're also very used to hearing that meditation with him, just him saying it. So it's also perhaps jarring and different. So, of course, no artist wants to hear that, hey, what you made, it's not working. We're not into it. We can't approve it. And a part of me didn't agree. I thought, well, I'm trying to write this for people who maybe aren't familiar with Mooji. Let's say, or at least let's think about them. And I want them to have an entryway in, and the music is sort of a doorway in. But look, I was glad in the end that they thought this, because it gave me the opportunity to go back and take a second look. And instead of using that meditation, say, well, what if I use bits from the rest of the conversation and I get a bit more editorial on my end and piece something together that has a little bit more creativity on my end and interpretation to create, by putting certain words together, it's going to put forth a certain feeling, which is a wonderful invitation, and a wonderful opportunity creatively. So I went back to the drawing board, went through the whole conversation again, and my normal process is to sort of first listen to it several times, and then go through and pick out phrases that are really sticking out to me, just on their own or in groups, and then to take that and distill it down again and again and again, sort of like little shavings off of a sculpture. And you eventually come to like a core of a group of phrasings that you feel like, in the order you've now arranged them, create some kind of arc. So now I had to come up with some new music. And I'll tell you, like, writing music for me works best when it doesn't have a particular job or agenda attached to it. Like, you're just writing music and it's sort of an ongoing process of creation. But when you have to write music for a particular thing, especially if it's like something you care about, which I care about it all, that kind of self-consciousness and pressure often is not at all conducive. That being said, something strange happened. Like, I came in the studio and my upright piano had been tuned recently. So I just kind of like threw up a couple mics, sat down and started playing this phrase and layered 3 pianos, and really quickly had this song that was a little bit like loosey-goosey, but because it was done in this improvisational fashion, it didn't have a strict structure that you might expect with the chord progression. And I don't know, I dug it. And what came out was essentially this. And it went on from there. And I mean, as you know, this is what the song became. And it's always nice when something happens, just kind of flows out. It's not always the case, but basically I took that piano track and I wanted to add in some sort of like pads to give it a little meat. actually kind of like that. They were like tape strings that were very much, like a synth. I thought, I don't know, as opposed to, I wanted it to sound like tape strings, like something like that. And then I needed to add in a bit of bass to give it a little low end. Just give it some of that sub content that, so it's a bit of an arrival as the song progresses on. And then from there, I was able to take the Mooji phrases and work with them. And here's just a sound of what some of that was like on its own.
You come to recognize the inherent stillness that is synonymous with your natural being. In just putting the attention here in the heart of your own awareness, magical, mysteriously.
Yeah. Sometimes people, that particular line, they're like, what's he saying? It's magical, mysteriously, which I just love that. So I put this together and sent this off to them, and thankfully they thought it was great. And they're like, this will work, and we went from there. And we had to wait a while, we got it mastered and all that kind of stuff in order for it to fit in. As you can imagine, for Formless, the label, when they're putting something together in a rolling fashion, it's called a waterfall release, with lots of different artists and speakers. There are a lot of challenges there, both from, technically from a tagging perspective on DSPs, but just coordinating with all the artists. So it took some time. But I was really happy to be able to do this and then be able to share it with you all now. And I have to say, I'm glad it's not like a 20-minute meditation. I really like that it's a bit more bite-sized and it has a bit more emotional sort of like mainstream musical content behind it. I like that. And so, you got to trust in the process if I learned anything. And in this process, I learned that it was flowing how it needed to flow. And it was magical as always. I mean, frankly, what an honor to be able to create this at all. And in doing so, I got to spend an hour with Mooji one-on-one virtually and ask him questions and have him work with me in real time. And that's just awesome. I mean, totally awesome. It's a blessing to be able to go out there and meet some of these people who are influencing so many lives, who have figured a lot of things out for themselves, and then to be able to sit with them and receive and give each other your attention. So I feel grateful, and I hope that this track and the music are bringing you a little bit of light of truth inside, and that you're enjoying the other songs that are on this Inner Space release from the Formless label. And I think there's a lot more to come from them as they continue to roll it out into the full piece. With that being said, I'm going to end this by just letting you hear the whole song, how it came to be. And if you'd like to hear it in full fidelity, you can do that at eastforce.org and go to the music tab. And it's on Bandcamp in 24-bit. If you want to download it and hear like everything essentially that we put into this song and all the details we do with mastering and everything to make it sound great. Podcasts are pretty low fidelity. The music quality is not great. The sound quality is not good. It is what it is. And even on Spotify and so forth, it's okay. Apple's now lossless, I guess. So if you're listening to Apple, you can hear it in its full fidelity too. But at any rate, thank you for listening. Thank you to the Mooji team. And thank you to everyone on Formless Label and Justin. And here it is. This is The Light of Truth featuring Mooji.
At the heart of every human being is the light of truth. Sometimes we have to be rendered desperate. We're just made empty. Sometimes When we are curious, we learn. When we are desperate, we discover. In every age, there's a call for introspection. Living from the inside out rather from the outside in. And I feel very often we can live just on the surface of the potential of our existence. What if you don't touch any thought about what is past? Just leave all was past. And the concept of next, if you don't touch next or past, and in the present moment, don't hold to any shape, then discover what really is here. Recognize the inherent stillness that is synonymous with your natural being. In just putting the attention here in the heart of your own awareness, magically, mysteriously, things begin to orient themselves within your being. You are rooted in your own self-awareness. Rooted in that inner stillness. Personhood appears to eclipse this knowing in you. Which is more than a knowing, it's a knowing being. It's a oneness in that. It's a oneness in that. Happiness is your natural state.